Whether you're brand new to Dynasty or you live in these Dynasty streets, we're going to make sure we set you up with all of the strategies and information that you need. And who better to do it with than the host of the Football Guys Dynasty Football Show? Next. Welcome in, everyone, to the Double FU, the FU times 2. This is the fantasy football universe. I am Jeremy Shulman at FF_Rebel. And today, if I point in the right direction, there we go, we have a very special guest. He is, like I said at the top, the host of the Football Guys Dynasty Football Show, as well as a new project he's got coming out in about a week called the Unbinged Pod, which I'm looking forward to as a fellow Marvel and all things entertainment nerd myself. But today we are going to talk about Dynasty football, some strategies for you, especially on the what feels like Christmas morning here with Scott Fishbowl kicking off for most of us. But anyway, Jagger May, thank you very much for joining us, and the warmest of double FUs to you. Welcome in there.
Double FU is fantastic. That is great. I wish we could do something like that for Football Guys, but I already pushed Joe's patience too much. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, man. So I know I did kind of a mediocre job there of kind of plugging the things you got going on. I know you got that new project happening and the Dynasty show. Is there anything you want to say about that stuff and, do a better job than I did there for you?
Actually, you did an excellent job, dude. I'm literally taking notes to do a better job when I bring in guests. I'm like, hey, dude, this is a guy, No, but like,
I love that.
Basically, I'm doing the Dynasty show with Jeff. We got that rolling now, and then I'm doing another, as they say, like a passion project, which is talking about the other things I spend too much time on. If you do fantasy football, that's probably just a drop in the nerd bucket for 90% of people.
Fair enough. No, it's not the eye infection that I seem to be having. It's, the fact that we're going to get a little nerdy today that I wore the glasses on the show. But, let's jump into it here. And actually, really quickly, before we start talking Dynasty, we have to address the giant fish in the room. Scott Fishbowl just kicked off. I think, if I saw correctly on social media, that you had a live draft go on. Is that accurate?
Yeah, we are into round 10 right now. We had our live draft when we were gonna do like just the first 10 rounds, but the menu we were at got a DJ all of a sudden, and it like quickly changed the vibes. It like it was still nice, but like the draft turned into like just a party, and like everyone quit drafting after the DJ came, But like it's rolling now. I like my team much better than I did last year. Last year I did pretty terrible, but I've learned from my ways. So we'll see how that goes.
Awesome. Yeah, we just kicked off. I just had my first draft pick. Got Lamar Jackson at the 107, which felt like a nice value. And we'll see how it goes. But for anyone who's watching here who doesn't know, the Scott Fishbowl, led of course by Scott Fish, pretty apparent in the name there, is a pretty popular at this point contest. Many from the fantasy community, many fantasy enthusiasts join every year. And so that just kicked off today. And really that seems to mark the beginning of redraft season, as kind of all of us Dynasty nerds kind of jump into redraft for maybe the first time all season and try and kind of mess around and see what the new values are. So, we'll see how that goes. But let's get into Dynasty. And the first thing, Jagger, I'm going to ask you is, with your expertise in Dynasty, how could you explain to someone who's interested but has never started a Dynasty league, what are the benefits of joining up and beginning as a Dynasty manager over kind of your standard redraft league?
More and more Dynasty, I would say more and more. I think now we're probably at where an appropriate we're at appropriate level as far as like we do value, because like Dynasty's getting a little bit like cryptocurrency where stuff shifts a little more, but the major difference is long-term value versus short-term value, and we have to account for that in a dynasty. And then the other big thing is that because of this, it's year round, so you constantly need to be vigilant. Like I know some people don't like to do stuff in the middle of the season or in the middle of the off season, and that's fine. Like take things at your own pace, but ultimately. It makes it much easier if you stay vigilant and you can capitalize on storylines. So
Yeah. Totally agree with that. I mean, I have a home league or two that are dynasty leagues, and those guys treat it like a redraft league. They take off from the moment the season ends. You're sending trade offers, no one's responding. So I understand that. But yeah, the fun of it is in the off season, reacting to news, adding, dropping players, making trades. And if you're as into it as some of us here are, then you just enjoy finding those little market values. Let me ask you a question though about market value, because I've been trying to have this conversation with a few people. Um, when you think about like a keep trade cut or a trade calculator, those seem to be kind of like a standard go-to for a lot of fantasy players to try to kind of assess value. The way I view that is it's the market as it stands right now. How do you try to kind of operate within the market and those fluctuating values of players? Are you someone who goes out and is always looking for value in the players who are buy lows? Are you someone who's just going after your guy? How do you typically play the market?
I have some buy lows, and then like it depends again from team to team. I have several teams, and like Sunday night is a big thing. Like before I watch House of the Dragon or something, I'm going through every
Mhm.
league, just looking it over, looking at my team, understanding the market, and I'm seeing if there's trades or moves to make. Sometimes I have teams that are just pretty solid, and I'm just checking in on them. There's nothing really I can do unless I'm trading a trade. But and I do use keep trade cut and other things. And I know a lot of people
Mhm.
think that's controversial. And here's why I tell people about ADP, keep trade cut, whatever metric that we use to determine value, is that it's just that. It is a metric, it is a tool. And
Yep.
you use that to determine where other people or the general consensus might draft someone or what they might trade for someone, but that's not where you're determining that. So like when I put something together or trade together, I will reference keep trade cut to make sure that I'm like not crazy, because sometimes you will put something together and you
Same.
think that's fine but you're in the minority. But like I had a trade that was like keep trade cut said it was like 1,000 points off. It's like gives you the red line, like that's not good. I'm like, no, it's
Yeah.
appropriate. Like it's not, it's not that
Yeah.
big of a deal. But like, and another thing too is like it shows you just it measures how you feel against the consensus, so you actually can make
Mhm.
these picks or make these trades or whatever. So it's like, yeah, I literally told someone like, I'm sorry that you didn't think that this trade was fair. I saw a player lose a lot of value in other places, and I'm just trying to make a trade happen. Like don't get offended. You basically are doing yourself a
Yeah.
disservice to not use these tools.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I use it all the time too, and like you said, it's one piece of the puzzle.
Hmm.
Because we have our own values and feelings about players, as do most all fantasy managers. You can use that as a way to see what the average fantasy player thinks, where the market stands from day to day, and it has 15 million data points within it. So some of that has got to be pretty accurate. But yeah,
Hmm.
I totally agree with you. It's you do have to find a way to play the market, and whatever tool you use, just make sure you use it against your own values as well, which
Hmm.
is pretty much the entire dynasty game, isn't
Yes, exactly.
it? Yeah. So right now, we're talking about Scott Fish. We're talking about Dynasty. When you are drafting your Dynasty team, it's your first team, brand new startup. How do you typically prefer to build? Do you have, for example, I generally tend to go kind of a zero RB strategy. That's been what I've been doing for a couple of years, so I'm comfortable with it. Is that something that you also like, or do you have a particular strategy, or do you just play the board?
Um, I I tell everyone that Dynasty's jazz and you play the board, but typically, like I
Mhm.
do have like, let's say, a playbook or what have you. Like you said, I devalue the running back, and a lot of that is just investing early into the players and the positions that we know are going to hold year over year. Which it really,
Yeah,
there's one outlier. It's running backs that don't really hold.
yeah,
Other positions have different age values, like quarterbacks and tight ends last a little longer than, let's say, like your average wide receiver or something like that. But that's like a whole other different story. But like typically, if I'm going to build something, like my first pick, unless I'm at the turn, is going to be a quarterback or something like that. Then I might
mhm,
take a wide receiver. Like a lot of people that take like Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase in the middle of a round. I'm not comfortable enough to do that when you think about the high upside quarterbacks. Like I would rather take Kyler Murray too early than take Jamar Chase and then hope to get like a quarterback on the back end, because I'm not going to get rushing upside. And then like a tight end, tight end's deeper than ever, but I still want to be as young and have one of the best tight ends as possible, because you do get the positional upside. One thing that I have changed this year, where I did a lot more startups than I did last season. Last season I think I only did like one.
mhm,
I've done like 5 or 6 this year. Is that I will
mhm.
take running backs earlier if it works out that way. If I can work the draft board and acquire value, or if I'm able to trade down, I'll pull the trigger on Jahmyr Gibbs. I'll pull the trigger on. I'll never get Bijan, so let's throw that out there. But like Brees Hall, something like that.
Yeah,
Like I'll pull the trigger there on some of these running backs. And Jonathan Brooks is someone who I've taken earlier
mhm,
than a lot of people, and that's because again, you're getting positional value really, really young. Like we've got a new revolution of running backs coming in now, where I'm willing to invest in someone who's still on a rookie contract. Like so.
yeah. Totally agree with you. And those young guys who have the upside and the chance to hit, absolutely okay investing in them at running
Mhm.
back. But otherwise, for me, it's kind of pound wide receiver. I don't know if you've seen this in your startups that you've done. I've done about the same, about 5 startups this off season. Zero RB has become, oh, it worked 2 years ago and it worked last year. Zero RB is working, and now half the draft is zero RBing it in dynasty startups. It feels like that value that used to be there is regressing simply because you have it's pushing the running backs down, and there's value other places to be had outside of wide receiver. So I'm finding that I'm taking 2 QBs within my first 2 to 3 picks because QBs are being pushed down the board. And I'm finding that, like you said, the elite tight ends and are I'm taking them in the first few rounds. Are you seeing any of that with zero RB kind of taking over, or is that not really reaching you in your startups?
This is a this startup season right now strategy.
Mm,
Like this is
yeah,
probably going to be obsolete, real soon, because the season's happening. But
yeah,
I'm taking two stud wide receivers early, and then I'm comfortable. Like essentially, uh, if I had my ideal start, I'm going QB, wide receiver, tight
yep,
end, and then I'm going wide receiver, running back, like the next 2 rounds. And that's because it's like you
yep,
said,
love
like
it.
I can get two stud wide receivers, and then because we had such an influx of wide receiver talent, I'm willing to be comfortable and say I have a and we're going to get to that quote unquote competitive roster after the startup,
Hmm.
with like Brian Thomas Jr. as my wide receiver three, like a lot of these younger guys as my wide receiver three,
Yep.
in order to take advantage of the positional running back, the positional value of running backs that are falling right now. And this is and this is what makes fantasy in general unique from year to year, is market values change, and your strategies should change along with it. It's like, yeah, some things stay the same year over year, as far as like running backs will decline at a certain age, like all that stuff matters, but where you grab that
Mhm.
value and the team that you have afterwards ultimately changes because of the fluctuating market value.
Yeah, absolutely. And one other thing that I kind of try to shoot for, it doesn't always work, but I'm wondering how you feel about this. Is I'm always looking to compete in year 2 with my startup builds.
Mhm.
So because of that, I'll stretch zero RB to kind of the max. I won't take an RB until round 9 or 10. And I'll just try to load up on wide receivers, get my 2 quarterbacks, get a stud tight end. So I'm set everywhere else. And because, like you said earlier, the RB market fluctuation, those values change so rapidly and so quickly,
Mhm.
and the decline comes for these guys so fast that that position really is a volatile one that, by the time you get to year 2, the 2 guys that you can draft early might not be, value wise where they were ranked just a year ago. So do you like to play for year 2? Do you like to kind of push some of that down the road, or do you think, maybe competing in year 1 is probably where the value is for you in your startups?
I think that the mentality you should have is win soon. Like the win
Mhm.
now is a good way to make negative EV moves, and that's with
Sure.
your trading or if you're drafting. Like you're basically building a McMansion when you could build a castle when you're just trying to do a win now type thing. So I do win soon, meaning that like again I'm playing jazz um. I'll take a Keenan Allen late, like around 8 or 9,
Mhm.
where his value is if I've built a roster where I think I'm competitive soon. Let's say like if things just don't work out for me, my strategy doesn't work, then that kind of switches things up of what I'm going to do later in
Yep.
the draft. But I want to win year 2. I want to be competitive year 1. Meaning like I don't believe in this when I first started, a lot of people were like, you need to have a top 4 roster or you're just like not doing it. And that is just incredibly
Sure.
wrong. How many of us have built a stud roster and then we're getting knocked out of the playoffs in the first round because this other roster
Yeah.
that isn't as pretty had Mike Evans? Like that's like you're what you want to do is a
Mhm.
roster that is perennially competitive and gets to the playoffs because it takes skill to get to the playoffs. It's mainly luck to win from there. They're going forward.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't want to say like push it down the road, just get all first round draft picks. Yeah, like if you're doing a startup where you're drafting your picks or whatever, or you're just throwing the rookies in there, get a
Mhm.
good mix and really understand your value. And don't just commit to win now or commit to punting in 3 years. Try to win as soon as you can without giving up a lot of youthful value.
Love it. Absolutely. Totally agree with you. Um, in terms of the startup draft is over. Now you're in season. Maybe it's the first season, maybe it's the second or third. Do you have any particular tendencies that you've noticed for yourself in season, or even in the off season with your teams? Where are you actively trading for value? Are you playing the waiver wire every single week? Are you stashing guys who could gain in value? How do you typically see yourself in season as a dynasty player?
I'm an active trader, and when you're in a lot of leagues, and I'm a busy guy, make content stuff like that. Like I've
Mhm.
committed to being shit at waiver wires. Like I'm never gonna be good. Like
Sure.
the one time I'm gonna be good at waiver wires right now in the off season. The in season,
Mhm.
I hope I got it together because I'm not getting it unless it's happening in a trade. But
Nice.
I'm an active trader 100%, and I like draft picks. Depending on the league that
Yep.
I'm in, draft picks have more value in my hands than they do in a lot of my league mates. And to me, that's
Mhm.
just that goes to player
Sure.
to player. I know that some people like don't buy draft picks because like your hit rate sucks or blah 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 blah. I call me arrogant, but there's like one reason I do this for money. I'm really good at rookie evaluation and stuff like that. I know like I'm gonna miss. Like I'm not saying it's nothing but bangers. I'm not like when Bill Belichick was like nailing 6 round picks in the glory days. I'm not that guy all the time, but like I'm pretty
Yeah.
good at understanding value and especially understanding scheme. So I'm willing to like you have on the sheet. Like I'm a rookie hoarder. I'll take them. Rookies that are in bad situations or production doesn't love them, I love them. Like AD Mitchell and Ricky
Yep.
Pearsall, like the spreadsheet guys don't
Mhm.
love them, but I know the film, so I take that
Yeah.
value. So I'm always trying to build young, and I'm always trying to trade, and I'm always trying to get draft picks. And to take this saying from Jeff, like fourths can become thirds, thirds can become seconds, seconds become first. So like I'm rarely leaving a trade without at least getting some type of pick back, because you have, let's say like right now you've got a little less than a whole year to increase the value of that pick somehow with trades or flipping it. And that's just kind of how I play my game as an active trader in Dynasty. So that's why I suck at redraft is I hate waiver wires. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. So
yeah. Trading is so tough in redraft too. But I got to correct one thing you said in there. Bill Belichick in his glory days, picking some, banging out some 6th-round picks. There's some Twitter videos banging out some 1st-round picks, a couple of weeks ago. So I don't know what's going on there. But
yeah.
Bill Belichick still in the game. So.
He still got it.
I guess so. Also a Patriots fan, so a little bit of pride here in my eye when Big Bill is around. But moving on from that, and I agree with you. Maybe some tendencies that used to be yours or that you see in dynasty leagues that you think are ineffective, either in your personal experience or things you've seen that guys in dynasty leagues do that you're like, that's not a winning strategy at
all. I kind of hinted at that going win now. Even when I've done it, I've regretted it. Like last year, I bought Tony Pollard because I was like, his value's fallen.
Yep.
Let's just try to get him. And like at the end of the day, I don't think he really helped me. I don't like Tony Pollard wasn't like the trade that did it all. And like the value I gave up at the end of the day wasn't worth it. And I would have rather have had it in the long run. So, and the other tendency, and this is something for me is, and I'm still like working through that, like a lot of people say like, I'm an expert and, this is just the way it is. Like, no, like your process should always be changing and evolving is, I'm a risk it for the biscuit person. And and at the same time being a risk it for the biscuit person, I don't believe in the portfolio strategy at all. I don't believe in it. So like when you're like that, you'll have like 10 rosters with Anthony Richardson and you're just like fucked, like, like across the board. So that's like something that I don't love about myself. But like now that it's off season, I do love it because I have 10 rosters with Anthony Richardson. So that's like I tell people, like, here's what I do, but like, it's definitely a double-edged sword. Like when it's good, it's real good, baby. But like, when it's bad, it's bad.
Yeah, it's 100% a fluid game. And listen, I think we've been skirting around it, but we haven't specifically said it throughout this entire conversation, is you need to know your strengths and your weaknesses. And if you're a guy who goes out and you're consistently getting values in trades, then you need to trade more. If you're a guy who plays the waiver wire well, then you need to do that more. If you're a guy who is comfortable, like I am, drafting no running backs and kind of just scooping up the value of, I don't know, a Rico Dowdle or a Damian Pierce, and just hoping those guys give you some usable weeks and become trade fodder for you, then do what you feel comfortable with, because ultimately you're going to have to live with your team for the long term. So let's see. So here is an issue, and you alluded to this a couple of minutes ago, but let's talk a little bit about how a dynasty manager can really evaluate their roster appropriately. What do you look for on your teams to try to determine if you're a contender or a pretender? And, when do you try to do that by in the calendar?
I'm trying to do that after the rookie draft. Like after the rookie supplemental draft, you have your roster and then you're like, okay, I have 4 months to make this something or to figure out something, and like I said, I try to do a win soon. So a lot of my early teams that I have my teams were orphans. So I'm only just now kind of getting them to the way I want because they were like so poorly managed. But like in most cases, I am ready to compete after the rookie draft. Like I've acquired picks. I've either started moving picks for vets, acquiring vets in the draft, stuff like that. So basically after the draft, I'm thinking like, what holes do I need to fill? And then do I think makes a competitive roster? Do I have a high upside QB, meaning that I have someone
Mhm.
that has a QB1 overall upside every week? And I truly do believe that's like your Kyler Murray's, your Lamar Jacksons, like your guys that rush, or like you have to be Patrick Mahomes to be a pocket passer to consistently
Yeah.
be like above QB5. So I know that's crazy, but I consider like a lot of them high end QB2s. CJ Stroud is a weird value right now, but like he's technically QB1, but I'd almost rather flip him and acquire a rushing QB and settle for like a Brock Purdy or something as my QB2. So I have like a lot of like, and that, I guess that's a good segue to talk about QB2. It is impossible to give people the advice that you can't win unless you got two top 10 QBs. That's not
Yeah.
feasible. That's like, there's 12 other people with their own agenda that probably listen to similar advice. So like the
True.
QB2, it matters having a high end one. If you can get it, then fine. Always try to upgrade that. But I'm competitive if
Mhm.
I just have a starting quarterback at my QB2. And then I have at least, and depending on my QB2, then it matters if what my QB3 is. Let's say I have Drake May. And I know this because this is fresh on my mind on a team I have. I have a team that has Drake May and Baker Mayfield and Bryce Young. I need to turn one of those guys into something else. And then I'm okay
Yeah.
having the other two guys as QB2s. Like that's what I'm trying to do to make that a competitive roster. And then, like I said at the startup, I want two set it and forget wide receivers. Like I want, two studs that I don't have to think about. The only time I'm taking them out is a bye week or some fluke outlier like Mike Evans against Marshawn Lattimore, something like that. And like and even then I'm pretty reluctant, and I might just be disrespectful and move into my flex. Um, and then I want a tight end. So if I have two QBs, two wide receivers, and a tight end, I'm fine. Notice I did not say running back. I do not. If
Yep.
you build your team with that, running back will work itself out. Then I like for that roster, I'll make a mental note to check the waiver wire for whatever hot running back happens. Who's the next Kyron? Who's the next? Who gives a shit? Like
Mhm.
guy that is going to have too much value in year
Yeah.
two. Something like that,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
you can trade a second and get it. Like that is what makes a competitive roster. People are like,
Mhm.
I have to have a CMC as a running back to be competitive. No, you don't. You'll be all right.
Yeah. Totally agree with that. How important then is depth on your dynasty roster?
You can only get so deep. Depth's important. Like I have a couple of teams where they just let me run shit for like 2 years, so I just got like a lot of depth. I like to build depth with wide receivers because again, I just think they have more consistent, predictable value. And I'm talking
Mhm.
specifically about like what I want my flex. Running backs, I just need four. I need four. I need like preferably I'll have like one or two that are like pretty good if I've like if like the football gods shine on me. And then I have two usually change of pace backs, like that I'm just hoping catch like Marshawn Lloyd. I've got a lot on him for this season. Like,
Yep.
please just get like 30 yards rushing and four catches and I'll be all right. That's like that's basically where I'm at with that. So that's where depth matters. QB depth, I think, matters more than other stuff because it is the most
Mhm.
difficult to acquire. So having a QB3, I do
Sure.
think is important, but not necessary to be competitive.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. And I can only get so deep is something I've been telling women for years. So it is what it is over here. We do the best with what we got. Um, final question here is upside versus consistency. Where do you fall in terms of your roster construction? Where do you want the guys more or less with elite upside, like a Christian Watson, who can absolutely come out and win you 3 weeks a year, and take goose eggs and in 2/3 of them, or at least something lesser than that? Or do you want kind of the consistent, I don't know, Deontay Johnson type guy who you can bank on for 12 PPR points every single week? What are you looking for? Is it a mixture? Do you like more upside? How do you prefer to build?
I like upside, like I said. I think it's better to live or die by Lamar Jackson than like be safe with a Brock Purdy. And like, but Brock Purdy's like a really high end QB too. And I'm like not disrespecting him as a player, but like people forget that we play a math game. Like that. It's just all about how many points get racked up. But wide receivers are what consistent high end upside, if that makes sense. I know that's like a hard thing to say, but like you need studs, man. Like people should I have a roster where I have Garrett Wilson and Michael Pittman, or Jamar Chase and Michael Pittman, or Jamar Chase and Josh Jefferson? Yes, go try to make trades to make that happen. Yeah. It'll make your life easier. People who play I like best ball because I hate setting lineups. Don't draft shitty players. Don't acquire shitty players. And you don't have to worry about that. Like I don't worry about lineups because I only need to move a couple of guys from bye weeks or something like that. Running back, and again, because of how I build my teams, that's different at that point where I don't care. I want high upside. I want the guys who catch passes. If they don't do anything, it's fine because again, I've got studs at wide receiver, at QB that are, and hopefully a tight end that are going to get it done. So and then again, tight end, I don't want there's no such thing as inconsistency in tight end. There's just either you got a good tight end or you have a shit tight end. That's it. Yeah. That's kind of just how that position works. So again, it depends. But to get realistic in it builds, wide receiver 3 and your flex, that's when you need to embrace variance. Or even your wide receiver 2. I'll accept DK Metcalf as a wide receiver 2. He's gonna win me some or something else. But if he's my wide receiver 3, amazing. And then on flex is if you're lucky to have Zay Flowers in your flex, which I bought the Zay Flower dip when everyone thought he sucked because of lack of production and shit. So I have a lot of Zay Flowers, but you may get lucky, but a lot of times people are well, I don't like this player because I don't know. So it's okay, so you're gonna put you're gonna put a running back that's gonna get you 7 points at most for sure because they're gonna guarantee you 5 points rather than put this other guy that could get you 20 points in your flex, but he may only get you 7. That's just the mental gymnastics that we play. So in the flex, shoot for the moon, baby. And I'm not saying don't go for a 20%er, but the Will Fullers and of old and stuff like that. Those guys deserve your love in the flex.
Totally agree with that. It's so hard because sometimes those guys flame out, right? I was a big Jameson Williams investor. I was not as big, but slight investor in QJ and Treylon, and sometimes those guys don't work out, but when they hit, I mean, they're absolute monsters. We'll see if guys like Christian Watson, if Jameson Williams, QJ, if some of those guys can become those elite upside guys this year. I don't know, but they're still going to have that high variance. And it plays to your point that you made earlier, where get to the playoffs, and then hopefully those guys just hit at the right time, and you can win it all. You mentioned before that you love to trade, so let's just talk about trading for a few minutes. First is the concept of tiering down. Is this something that you do where, we'll stick with him. Let's say you take a Christian Watson or even a George Pickens, maybe is a better example of a guy who, has a higher value right now than maybe you should, or at least it's been elevated, in the last 6 months or so. Would you look to tier down from a guy like George Pickens to, I don't know, like a Jaden Reed, if you could get a first on top? Is that a strategy that you typically do? Or are you looking at the other end of the spectrum where you're always just trying to acquire the elite player in the trade?
It just depends. It really just depends. Again, I most of my rosters I keep pretty fluid. So it if I have a lot of talent and I need a supplement elsewhere, I will tear down. And I stole this quote from Jesse. You should never tear down. You should tear down. Don't rip apart your roster for just picks. Go get someone who's actually an NFL player and has scored points before, and then get some picks to go along with that. But one particular stud team I had CeeDee Lamb, Garrett Wilson, Zay Flowers. Like this team's just absolutely stacked. And so, but I needed a quarterback, and I needed capital to go get a quarterback. Because it's like rough when your QB1 was like, I think it was like Daniel Jones or something. And I went and like bought Lamar Jackson because I sold CeeDee Lamb for it. Like I will go do that. The only way I'm trading top like cream of the crop talent is to go get cream of the crop talent at other positions or something like that. I'll do that. But like let's say if I'm really tearing down, it's mainly because I've taken over an orphan, and that's like what you have to do. You look at a team, what's good, what's going to be long term, and then you're going to go acquire picks. But in most cases, I'm never trying to be vigilant. So let's say like a guy who I talk about a lot, Michael Pittman. I like him because he's a consistent like 14-point guy because of his role, and that's really good wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 value. But let's say on a lot of those teams, I'm still going to go try to tier up if even though I'm comfortable, just to stay vigilant. Like a lot of people like, how do you build a roster? I was like, some guy got desperate or got injury and needed something, and I just happen to have the right thing, so I'll go and try. But if I'm tearing down, it's because I may be punting a year or something, or I'm really trying to buy value that I know or feel pretty confident is going to increase in value later. I bought a lot of JSN because I feel like JSN did exactly what we thought we were going to do. So like I'll tear down to JSN or something like that. But like I'm not just going to tear down a lot of rookies that aren't going to do anything without getting something in return.
Yeah. We're going to segue on that because JSN is my number one buy low this offseason. I've been acquiring him everywhere I can. I think that offense is going to be awesome, much improved with Ryan Grubb in there now. But I have a question about kind of just some general players. Who do you think right now, JSN included, are some buy lows, maybe 2 or 3 guys you have your eye on or you've been acquiring lately, and maybe just a little bit about why?
George Kittle and Pat Freiermuth are 2. Like, and I got to give Alfredo and Dave Kluge credit. Like, George Kittle is pretty undervalued right now, and it's one of those things. If you look at his numbers objectively, a lot of your preconceived notions and biases just like aren't true. Like when you tell people like, did you know George Kittle only missed 2 games last year? People are like, no way. I'm like, he did, man. He only missed 2 games, So, and we talk about variance. Once you get past certain tight ends, who else would you want besides George Kittle on your team? So, like, I think he's in that weird range where a lot of people think that they know he's 29. He's a vet, so he's cheap, but he's in one of the best offenses that know how to utilize him and could get you points. So like if you're trying to win and need a win now, tight ends last a lot longer than wide receivers and running backs do. It's the nature of their role. I would go pick up George Kittle, and then and Pat Freiermuth is another one. A lot of people hate Arthur Smith, the head coach. They think they hate Arthur Smith, the offensive coordinator, and those things aren't true. Like, and also Arthur Smith wasn't as bad as people said he is. Desmond Ridder was as bad as Desmond Ridder was like Arthur Smith's ultimate sin with the Falcons is he thought that his system would save Desmond Ridder, and thus Desmond Ridder would save his team. That was his cardinal sin out of all the things. And with all that being said, with all those notions on there, that's why you should go Pat Freiermuth. Kyle Pitts was hurt and Desmond Ridder fucking sucked. So let's just get that out of the way. Any other team, system, tight ends eat. You remember Jonnu Smith? He went to the Pats and died because he was a Patriot. I'm a Pats fan, so I was there. Like we just sucked as a team, but like
we can't use tight ends.
Yeah, like we just did a really bad job. Like we thought, like, hey, you're Gronk, you'll figure it out, but he's not Gronk. Anyway, Arthur Smith's not like that, and Pat Fryermuth's someone who blocks. Who's also different than Kyle Pitts. He just fits that Jonnu Smith, Chigakonkwo type role where he can play both H back and receiver, and he should eat a lot of passes. Like he had a very good rookie season. It's just that on the flip side, you remember that guy Kenny Pickett that did that cool slide in that one game? Then he owes Jordan Addison every penny he's ever earned. That's just like that. At the end of the day, that's kind of like we have two situations where two bad quarterbacks who are no longer there to hurt us are allowing us to make decisions about quality players. So that's like, and the secret's kind of getting out because Pat Fryermuth, like, I'm starting to get sniped. And it's really annoying that I have a big platform now because like people will like use my own advice to get me, and I'm like, hey, you guys aren't supposed to know about Pat Fryermuth, even though I haven't shut up about him for 2 weeks.
Awesome. I love it. We just have some comments here from what we were talking about a few minutes ago. Traded Wilson, I'm assuming that's Zach, could be Russ, I guess, for Lamar due to being stacked or Garrett. Due to being stacked at wide receiver, but needed a QB. So Garrett Wilson for Lamar. How are you feeling about that?
Yeah, dude, that's what I'm saying. Like, I love Garrett Wilson, but if you need a QB, man, like Lamar's pretty safe. I feel like he's going to be around. So
Absolutely. Yeah. So thanks, Stephen. We totally agree. That's the move that you got to make, especially in super flex leagues. You need that quarterback. Real quick, you mentioned Arthur Smith. Does that mean you're in on Najee and Jalen Warren?
Oh yeah, at Price. We actually just had a show on that. I was just like, we were doing ambiguous backfields. I'm like, I'd take either of them. Like, I don't care. I just bought a share of Najee last night for a second and don't care. I don't like whatsoever. Like
Ridiculous.
I'll do. Yeah,
So cheap.
it's so cheap. Like again, we get these weird. I don't even understand how we get these mental blocks in Dynasty where we're like, ugh, Najee. Like we hyped him up and we made mistakes about valuing him, and now he sucks, even though now he's appropriately valued. It's just like we're really bad about like we punish players because we fucked up. Like, like
yeah. Exactly.
Like we knew that offensive line sucked and Big Ben was like dead, and like Kenny Pickett probably wasn't that good. So we're like, well, Najee's a starter, so let's make him a back end round one. Like, no, like we should never have done that. But anyway.
Totally agree. Both of those guys at cost are great. My biggest value right now, outside of the ones we mentioned, Deontay Johnson. I just think he's going to eat. He's the automatic wide receiver one. How are you feeling about Deontay?
He's really good, and I think I'm about to. You talk about Scott Fishbowl. If we can just briefly hit on that, the wide receivers I really like now. I like that I went tight end early. Speaking of who I got George Kittle and another tight end. Oh, Sam Laporta and George Kittle. But so I lost a lot of the premium wide receivers. When you have these first down bonuses, I love them little slot guys, man. So like Deontay Johnson, it's going to be another. I think it's going to be another sub 5 TD year for Deontay Johnson, but
probably, yeah.
Yeah, but them catches in PPR, and if you're in Scott Fish, those first down bonuses, that's probably going to matter a little bit more in the long run, or as much as some of those TDs are. So I love Deontay, and did you see his beautiful reception perception graphic that still says he's a stud? And Kenny Pickett's just fucking terrible.
Super green all over the board. But no, I totally agree with you. Whatever happened in Pittsburgh last year is it's got to be a wash for all of these guys, and you just got to approach it with new eyes. So for sure. And to your point on Deontay, I don't know if you know this, but I know this because I've looked it up and talked to multiple people about this. Deontay Johnson's sleeper projection for this season is wide receiver 49, 65 receptions, 690 yards or so, and 4 touchdowns, which, like you said, might be true. But I think that's wildly off for Deontay Johnson. For me, he's a back-end wide receiver 2. I feel like that's Adam Thielen, 137 targets in this offense last season. And now he's 34 years old. Like, this is Deontay's role. And that offense should be better with Canales. So, I'm all in on Deontay as well.
to read it on your point, let's add all the context. Adam Thielen was relevant with a terrible offense. No Dave Canales, 34 years old. Like Deontay's younger, has Dave Canales. Like there's just come on, sleeper. We gotta do better. We gotta do better.
We gotta do better for sure. Well, Jagger, I really appreciate you joining me on this. Hopefully people get a bunch out of this. Please tell everyone where they can find you for the one person who will watch this who does not know where they can find you. Please lay it out for
them. As recently discussed before we got on here, I changed my Twitter handle recently. You can just find everything on Twitter at Jack Says. I'm at Football Guys. I host a show twice a week with Jeff Bell where we talk Dynasty. And then soon, if you're not just into football and you're into other things that make people think you're a giant nerd, I have a new show with Alfredo and Vignesh Dorswamy called Unbinged, and we talk about all the shit that you binge and waste too much time on, because we do too. So
awesome. Excellent, man. Appreciate it. Thank you so much again, Jagger, for coming on. This is Jagger May. This is Jeremy Shulman at FF_Rebel on Twitter. We are the Fantasy Football Universe. You can find us at our website, fantasyfootballuniverse.com. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. We're on TikTok. We're everywhere you want to be. YouTube. Please go over there, like, subscribe, do all that stuff. If you like this, we post daily content and have excellent, knowledgeable guests like Jagger today. So for Jagger, I am Jeremy, and we will see you next time.